I was just the guy who helped set up the sound system. Because there was, I was like just one of the guys who followed the sound system, who know how the connections are. And I wasn't the DJ or I wasn't the selector. But I was a part of the crew, basically. You understand? Maybe before the DJ come out, spin a couple record or something like that. Nothing anyway. Anyway. So then, after that I migrated to America. Then I went back to Jamaica. And I think when I came back here, I met up with Toots. And I became Toots' driver on some of the tour. And also monitor, mix, engineer on some of the shows.
This was in what timeline? Around the 80s?
Yeah, 80s.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the first show I did was with Toots, Third World, and Mighty Diamonds. We did that in a theater called the Carter Barron Theater in Washington.
Washington, D.C.?
Yeah. Then after that, I left and come to New York and start my own little selling of record and thing, right? Then I started my studio, buying my own equipment, learning them as I go along, learning them. And then I become proficient enough that I start to work for people like Pablo Moses, Meditations, Toots, Bad Brains, the Persuaders, many different people I can't remember. Many different people. Many different Jamaican artists.
And what were you doing for them? You were
engineer.
The engineer?
Yeah,
okay.
Recording. I worked for many different people. I don't remember some of them. It's like memory, and this weed thing make you lose memory also. So anyway, I started out my studio where it started out funny. My studio, that is the part of the history that is funny. Because I used to live in the East Village after I moved here. Right? And I rented an apartment. But renting the apartment and having no income and no job kind of have you in limbo. You get me? So at the time I rent the apartment, a lady came back to the apartment and said she had left something in the apartment who was vacant the apartment. So we started talking, and this lady told me she lived there for nearly 40 years in this apartment. And they pay her and bribe her to move out the apartment because she was rent control. They gave her some little lump sum of money to move out to the apartment. So after she told me that, I decided that I'm not paying no rent. That was a good class for me not paying no rent. And so they took me to court. And I win the case where they had to give me back my money, pay me for time, give me money for move someplace else. And so at the time, I didn't have a place. So guess what happened? I had a limited time to move. So I moved in a storefront in the village, a storefront. A storefront. And I had some musician friends, so I said, bring your instrument in, and we have a rehearsal place. And at the same time, I build a loft, and I sleep on the loft, right? And that is the start of my studio. So what happened was that Bad Brains used to come there, and we used to record with Bad Brains in the studio.
That was in the storefront?
That was in the storefront, off with their people bringing their equipment and so recording. So we were just rehearsing. But at the time, there was a lot of sound company in New York that used to rent equipment. So you could rent a tape machine, 24-track, 8-track machine. You understand? They would deliver it for 1 day, 2 day rental. So I figured I could make some money starting to record. So we would rent a machine, a 16-track machine, on the weekends, and we do recording. Bad Brains, you understand? Recording, Jennifer Jazz, all these people would record them. And so that's the start of the studio. Then, a matter of fact, the studio appeared in some of Andy Warhol's book.
Oh.
Yeah, because what happened was that we had some tenant upstairs, and the tenant of the studio used to complain and call the police that the noise was so bad. So the police said they couldn't do anything about it. She must call the Environmental Control Agency. So they come there one day with a meter and stuff when we start to play. And they tell the lady that there was no noise. It's a vibration of the bass that we're playing downstairs. And that is not in the protocol of noise. Vibration is not nice. So the next day, we got one of these guys from the East Village to paint across the studio in black vibration headquarters. So the studio became vibration headquarters. And the painting was like that, you know, vibration, like the artist that did it. So it was on some of the classic artwork that was taken across the East Village at the time. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I moved my studio from there to the music building.
The music building, okay.
Right. Where Madonna started, all of the other people in New York, all the famous people, Duran, whatever rehearsed in that building. So I used to have my studio in there. And that's the start of it. So that place become noisy, smaller. I moved to another place. Then I moved to a big studio, which was the main studio now. This was on 31st Street, right there in the Limelight.
Mm-hmm.
We had a real studio that was closed. We rented the studio. And after we rented the studio, remember the studio had a floated floor, was built as a studio. But there was office building there. And they were still complaining because our bass shit, because we had double 18 Euro 813C monitors. And we would shake the building. So the landlord offered to build a second floated floor in the building. So we had 2 double floated floors. That was called midimation.
Mm.
And so when the digital age start, where computers start, a lot of people start not coming there. We did all these people. We did people like Tang Clang. We did people like Mary J. Blige. We did even Mariah Carey, Rufus Thomas.
You recorded them?
Yes, all these people was there. We used to do work for Atlantic Record. The artists come in, we'd work with the Boiler House boys from England. All these people we work with. So after the digital thing start, studio not making money, nobody coming in, everybody have a computer. So I pack everything, ship them to Jamaica, open a studio in Jamaica with Peter Blake, Kingston 6. And I've been doing the same thing on and on, always in a studio working.
So what was the difference between running a studio in Jamaica versus in comparison to running a studio in New York City?
Well, in Jamaica, first of all, a lot of things is worked by friends' priority and different. It's different. You understand? I mean, there's so many studios in Jamaica now that it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody have a studio now. Everybody that used to be a singer have a studio in Jamaica. So a lot of the creativity that used to be in Jamaica, not there anymore. Because when they used to have a certain limited amount of studio, musicians used to gather there. You could go to a studio and say, 5, 6 musicians, and somebody would be shouting and say, yo, me name Little John, you know, what? You get me? So, that's a different vibe. You know, you can find different musicians in Jamaica immediately. You can find who you want. Like one of the places, for instance, is if you can't find people's phone number, you go up by Aquarius, up by Skateland, behind JBC. Most of the musicians them used to get around there at night time. You understand? So you go around there, you find Bongo Herman, you find everybody around there sometime. I don't know where they moved to now, but that was part of the whole thing in there. Now here, you can't find that kind of thing. You know, at the studio when I go to Jamaica, them have the food guy outside of the studio, you know.
The chef cooking.
Yeah, because the coconut man, you know, fruit guy, because people come to work at the studio even though nobody call him, because that's where him figure he might make some money today.
Right.
You understand? Because some Japanese guy come from Japan for do some dub or some work.
So what was some of your fondest memory?
I don't know. I have a lot of fun experience, but I also have a lot of weird ones that could have cost you your life. Like, you know, you don't even call names, but you go on tour with people that don't plan them things properly. Truck broke down. You're 5 hours late at the concert. Promoters threatening to sue them.
It's in Jamaica or US?
Here.
Oh, here, wow.
Yeah, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what were some of the places you've been to in terms of touring? Who are some of the people you tour with as a matter of fact?
Like I said, I tour with meditation, and I tour almost from here to New Mexico. Almost every place that meditation ever play across the country. I think New Mexico is the last one down. So we played in New Mexico, we played in North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio.
Almost in all the states in the
Right.
US.
The only place I never play with meditation is New York.
Really?
I don't think meditation almost never really used to, maybe lately, but they never had too many concerts here. But they're always on tour across the country, and they always touring.
So if people want to contact you for recording, maybe voiceover, songs, rehearsal, how do they contact you?
Number electricdread@yahoo.com or 646-239-1027.